Hi everybody, welcome back to Autism, a podcast all about autism acceptance, autism awareness and finding out about the difficulties autistic individuals go through so we can support them better. Today I'm joined by Becca, who's a parent of an autistic individual. Thanks for joining us today, Becca.
Hey, you're welcome.
So can you start by telling us a bit about your family and your autistic child?
Yep, so we're a family of 5. I've got 3 children, Bethany, who's 16, Joseph, who's 14, and Sophie, who is 11. Sophie is our child that's been diagnosed with autism. A year ago, my husband moved over to the UAE, so he's been here for about a year now, and myself and the children followed over in August last year.
Thank you. And what was the diagnosis process like? How did that affect your family dynamic?
So we started to notice a few oddities with Sophie at quite an early age. We've brought up all our children exactly the same, but we just noticed there was something different with Soph. She wouldn't follow sort of like simple instructions, as in, could you please go and put your pajamas on? Could you go and brush your hair, clean your teeth? Could you go and get ready for school? It would always turn into us asking 3 or 4 times, and then a full-blown meltdown would happen. She was very clingy at school, at nursery with her nursery teacher. We had to physically hand her over to a nursery teacher, so that was quite difficult. And then when she started primary school, we started to notice little extra bits and pieces. One of the main things that we noticed quite early was when we used to pick the children up from school, we would walk to the car, totally fine, get in the car, and then all hell would break loose. It was almost like it was a fizzy bottle exploding, so she would sort of like start kicking, punching her brother and sister, and she would always take it out on her brother and sister constantly. Her behaviour at school was brilliant. We had no issues with the school at all, but it was just literally as soon as we brought her home, that's when the issues kind of started, with asking her to do bits and pieces. At parties, when she was invited to go into parties, she really did not enjoy going to them. She would kind of sit with us the whole time, even though she was excited about going, but once we got there, she just didn't want to join in at all. We reached out to the school nurse, we reached out to the GP. We first took her down to the GP, I think it was around 2019, and we explained all our concerns with the GP, and the GP basically sat there and was like, what do you expect me to do? What do you want me to do? And I just kind of burst out crying. I was like, we need help. We're really struggling with our daughter. We just don't know what to do. And in the end, we left. We then went back about a year later for another appointment with a different GP. And this time she really listened to what we had to say. And then she said, right, leave it with me. I just need to think about which way we'd like to go. Let me have a think, and then I'll get back to you. And then we'll decide which path that we want to take her down. And she did. She contacted me, I think a day later, and said that we were going to go down the paediatrician route. So that's sort of like when we got the ball rolling with her with that. Lockdown was absolutely horrendous for us. It was just constant meltdown after meltdown after meltdown. At one point, because she kept slamming her door constantly, we took her door off of her bedroom because we were afraid that she was going to damage it or hurt herself. Trying to get her to do schoolwork, learning was a no-go. Trying to get the other kids to do that as well was really difficult because all our attention was constantly on Soph. At this point, they were all still at primary school age, so they did need that extra support to get on and help them with their schoolwork. But because our focus and attention was on Soph, it meant that we couldn't help the other 2 because she just didn't want to do it. we got her into a judo club once after lockdown. She joined her brother at judo, and judo really, really helped her because it was a way that she could release her aggression in a constructive way. And she did absolutely brilliant with her judo, to a point where she became a bronze medalist for BJC judo for her weight and her age group. So she was like a national champion. But then as she got older, she felt less like she fitted into the judo scene with her confidence. So she decided to leave that a few years ago. We had lots of referrals, lots of meetings with the school, with the paediatrician team. There was one day where we got invited to go to our local paediatrician department. We drove over, she was totally fine, pulled up outside, and she refused blank to get out of the car. I kind of seen that as in a good way, because kind of nobody really believed what we were saying, because none of her behavioural issues were happening outside the house. It was great that actually somebody could see like what we were kind of up against, because she was climbing all over around the car, was kind of shouting. So to me that was a bit of a win, I guess, because it meant that somebody else could actually see something of what we were experiencing at the time. So we eventually got her autism diagnosed in October 2022. So it took quite a long time from the beginning appointment with the GP right up to her diagnosis.
Yeah, I think that's quite a common thing as well, that a lot of parents say that, you know, because a lot of the behaviours and things that they struggle with happen at home.
Yeah.
And when they're sort of outside the home, it's, you know, everything looks like it's fine.
We also took the steps because Sophie hates going to school. When she's at school, she's totally fine, but it's just the thought of her getting up in the morning, getting ready and getting herself to school. So we even spoke to her and said, hey Soph, why don't you move schools? Would that help you get into school? Why don't you go to school with all your judo friends? And she said, no, don't want to. Took a day to sort of like process it, think about it. And she came home from school that day and said, yeah, I think I'd like to look at a new school. And within a matter of a week and a half, we moved her schools. Her original primary school that she was in, absolutely brilliant with my older two children, no issues whatsoever. But when it came to Soph, with the issues that we were having, constantly late for school every day, they didn't seem to want to know or help us. As soon as we moved her to a different school, absolutely fantastic, couldn't do enough to help us. There's a special school next door, they got extra support in to help her, took her off for one-to-one sessions to try and like kind of speak to her, to try and find out a bit more as to what she's feeling. But the school was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, it's good that you got that support from school.
Definitely.
And how did your other children first respond to the diagnosis?
They would have been 13 and 11, I believe, when Soph first got diagnosed, and they basically took it all within their stride. It didn't change the dynamic of our family, the dynamic between the three of them. They didn't really ask too many questions. We sat down with them, we watched, they recommended some YouTube videos for us to watch. So we sat down as a family to watch those. Soph wasn't interested at all at that point about it. She just didn't want to know anything about it. But the other two, they sat down, they listened and took it on board. But yeah, they've been as good as gold. They really had to grow up in the last sort of like 3 years. They've become very independent. They cook, they clean, they help with the housework, which has been an absolutely fantastic help to us, because sometimes our attention is so much on Sophie. They will just then get up and just help and do what needs doing around the house. So we're very proud of the fact. And they don't use her autism against her. They just, she's got autism. Doesn't really matter, whatever type attitude, which is great. So our oldest daughter, Bethany, she's been an absolute godsend, especially during sort of like just after COVID, those few years. She would really come and help us if Soph was on, we say. She would come in, she would go and speak to her, she would try and encourage her to get ready, try and reason with her, calm her down and really help us. So Beth was brilliant, because if she wouldn't listen to me or her dad, then Bethany was the one that we'd kind of call on. Beth, come and help. We need you. She really helped. So yeah.
And do you think that sort of initial education, sort of with the children, showing them the YouTube videos and things, helped?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was good for them to watch, to try and get some sort of understanding. But children, I think nowadays, it just like, oh, okay, yeah. I don't think they worry too much, really. I guess in one way they probably already know somebody at school that's been diagnosed with autism, so they're kind of used to it to one degree. I think nowadays there's a lot more openness about it. It's not a bit like, if you heard that child's got like autism, like you can't play with that child or whatever because they're really naughty. I just think children just take it on the chin nowadays, don't they? And just kind of like, well,
yeah, we're all different anyway. So
yeah.
And what kinds of emotions or behaviours have you noticed in your other children related to their siblings' needs? I know you spoke a bit about how Bethany supports Sophie when she's having a meltdown.
Well, I think one of the main things is sometimes we want to make our lives easier. So if we're out and about and there's something Sophie wants, 9 times out of 10 she will probably get it within reason. And I know in the past, especially Joseph has commented, Sophie always gets what she wants. And I think that's a little bit hard, because when you're out and about, you don't want your child to cause a scene and have that moment and that meltdown. So sometimes it's just easier to make your life, so you then don't get stressed out, that you just give in to that child to let them have, within reason, what they would want. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult, because like when you've got 3 children, you might be on a budget, you might not be able to afford necessarily to buy for all 3 children. So sometimes that is a little bit difficult, because you want to make sure you treat all your children equally and the same. But also you want to try and prevent your child, because they can't understand why they can't have the specific item. So that can be quite sort of difficult. They also find it quite difficult as well in the fact that Soph might use certain words that she shouldn't be using. And if we were to tell her off, she would just shut up, go away. But then if you say that to your other children, they would just like, okay. But then sometimes it's not fair, because you're telling one child off for saying a naughty word, but then you're not doing the same to your other child. So sometimes that can be quite difficult as well. They don't feel threatened, they don't feel jealous, they don't feel less loved. It just sometimes they can get a little bit frustrated, because they could be seeing it that we're spoiling her more so than them. But I think they understand, the situation that we're in.
Yeah. Okay. And have you seen any other positive impacts or strengths develop in your other children as a result of having a sibling with autism?
No, they've got quite a strong bond between the 3 of them. And autism probably makes the older 2 a little bit more compassionate and protective with her. We don't ever talk about it on like a daily basis. It's not mentioned at all. But I do think if there was ever a situation where Soph might be, I don't know, in danger or being picked on, bullied or what have you, the other 2 would step up and protect their little sister. But it would also work in the same way, because Soph can be quite feisty and aggressive. If anybody was doing anything horrible to the other 2, she would stand up for her brother and sister, and she would give a good what for. She wouldn't be scared to do that, even though she does come across quite shy, and she suffers with her anxiety. If somebody was being horrible to her brother and sister, it would be reverse as well. But it's all part of siblings, isn't it?
Yeah. So how else do you balance your attention and time between your children? I know you spoke a bit about it earlier.
It can be quite difficult at times. As I said, the older two are quite self-sufficient now. They are very good at just getting on with what needs to be done, which is great. But it can be quite difficult because if she is on one, we might say, go to your bedrooms, like get out of the way, because I feel quite sorry for Bethany and Joseph, because a lot of Sophie's aggression and anger is taken out on Bethany and Joseph. There could be times where they're happily playing and all of a sudden something happens, something turns. Sophie doesn't like what they've said, being that she can't process it fully. And then you can hear running and screaming and shouting, and then, Sophie, get off me, and there's a full-blown fight going on. So Bethany's really good. She won't really answer back too much, but Joseph, it's probably just being siblings, nothing to do with like her autism or anything, but he will sort of like answer her back, and he will look at her in a specific way, in a specific smile, and that just sets her off completely. So we do try and make sure that we try and spend some one-on-one time with the older kids. So my husband will take our son out to like football games, whether it's here or in the UK. They've just got into F1, so we'll sit down and watch that at the weekend. And it helps being so close to the F1 track here, so that's great. With Bethany, we spend one-on-one time together as well. We'll go out shopping, or we might go to the cinema, or to the theatre or something. So at the moment, Bethany is still in the UK. She's just finishing off her GCSE, so when she's done that, she'll move over with us in the summer, and then we'll be kind of complete as a family of 5 again. And I do feel as though the other two are missing her. Sophie has got a very close bond with Bethany, all because of One Direction and Harry Styles, but yeah, so they get on really, really well when Sophie's in the mood for it, which is absolutely brilliant.
I know you spoke about you showed the other two sort of YouTube videos and things like that, but it's not something you speak about on a daily basis. Is there any other sort of conversations that you've had with your other children? Yeah,
so if a situation does happen within the household between the children, and one of them set Sophie off for whatever particular reason, we will have a conversation with the children about that, and kind of explain like, come on guys, you need to remember that Sophie doesn't understand things like we would understand it. She can't process it like we would understand it. So if, for example, they're playing a board game and Sophie's adamant that we got to do it this way, doesn't matter what you try and say to them, or say to her, sorry, it has to be that way. But then the kids might say, no, so it's got to be this way, you've got to do it this way. And then there'll be a little bit of conflict between them. So it's trying to explain to the older two that sometimes you just need to think about what you're saying to her, because she struggles to process the correct way of doing things. Another good example is Joseph. He may just use her towel in the bathroom to wipe her hands. That could set her off. Or we could be downstairs in the living room and eating some snacks, and if we're eating crisps, that can set her off. So it's just trying to sort of like work ways that we're not causing her to be distressed within different situations. It's also trying to explain to Joseph that if a certain food is brought, Sophie might think it's for her, but it's not just for her, it's for everybody. But it's trying to get her to understand, well, no, that's been brought. You may like that, and you may have chosen it, but it's not just for you, it's for the household to share. So that can be quite difficult as well sometimes, is getting her to understand, but also getting the kids not to sort of wave it in her face to say, oh, look what I got this, and then that causes another situation on our hands.
But I guess inevitably kids are, at the end of the day,
kids are kids. So yeah, it's just typical kid behaviour, but a normal kid would be like, oh, okay, sort of like sulk about it. But with Sophie and the way that she is, that could cause a massive meltdown in our household. So it's just trying to get the kids to understand and explain how we need to handle certain situations with Sophie.
Have you ever sought out any specific resources or guidance specifically for the siblings?
No, we haven't. We know there is resources available to us in the UK, and I believe there's support over here as well. But currently at the moment, that's not something that we've needed to use. We've found that we've been able to manage things quite well as our family unit of 5, and then also with the support of family members like aunties, grandparents. We have been able to sort of like manage that ourselves. So there may be a point in the future where we may need to think about using some of these resources, but currently at the moment we feel that it's not right way for us.
Yeah. And when Sophie first got a diagnosis, was that something considered by the professionals, like, you know, how it would impact on her siblings?
I don't think anything was mentioned about sibling support at all to us. I'd imagine if we'd gone through the routes of looking at the resources available to us, there may have been something there for us to use if we wished to. But we didn't use anything, so yeah.
Okay. And what do you feel has helped your family the most in terms of supporting your other children that aren't autistic?
Just supporting them when they need it. I know, especially Bethany, she would vent to like her auntie that she's really close to, and they would have a conversation about it. But it's just making sure that the 3 children are all treated as much as possible the same, so nobody's being left out for any reason. Yeah, just making sure that they're all treated the same and fairly, and they know that if they've got any concerns or questions or worries, there is an adult within the family that they can go to. If it's not me or my husband, then they can go to a grandparent or an auntie or an uncle to speak to, or even a school teacher. So it's just making sure that they know that if they need it, there is support around them to support them.
I think it's really nice as well that you've got the support of the extended family. Often people are very sort of small families and don't have much contact with extended.
To be honest, when we first was speaking about Sophie and her behaviour, I've got quite a large family, and my family were like, oh no, she's just being naughty, don't be daft, don't be silly. And it wasn't until one day when she was having sort of like one of her moments that we decided to film it, just to show the family, actually, this is what we are dealing with pretty much on a daily basis. And then they was like, oh, okay, this is something that I've not seen before. And they were really shocked and surprised about the way that she was acting at home, because they'd never seen it. Like, when we go out and about, you would not notice anything at all. She's just a shy little quiet girl. But as soon as we were in home, the door shut, that bottle would explode and that would be it. But since they've seen that, the family have been really supportive. My mum has taken Sophie on several occasions so we can have like respite. My sister's done the same. When my husband first moved over, I was at home by myself for 4 months with the children, and that was really, really hard work. But just a call, and then I'd say, look, I need help, I can't get out of school. Somebody would come up and help and support us, or support the older 2 children. So yeah, it's great to have a great supportive family.
Yeah. What advice would you give to other parents navigating the sibling dynamic in a similar situation?
You can only do your best. You need to have plenty of patience. You just need to let your child do it in their own time. There's no, like we've learned, you can't keep on at them because it just won't get you anywhere. You need to stay calm, because if you get yourself stressed and worked out, it's just going to make the whole situation a lot worse. And we've been there and we've done that, and we've had stressful times and we've had arguments between ourselves because I think that he's doing it the wrong way, or he thinks that I'm doing it the wrong way, or I think he should be doing it a different way, or what have you. So there's been like arguments between ourselves, but you just need to learn to be a tag team when these situations arrive, and literally you take it in turns, because if you spend too long trying to calm your child down, you just then get uptight yourself. So you need to tag team between yourself. So now in the mornings, she still hates getting up for school, and it makes it even worse because we're getting up super early. So one of us will go and wake her up, then we'll come away, and then 10 minutes later the other one will go in and try and get her up. and then we keep going like that until she's up. So it's just about having patience, watching the YouTube videos, because there's some great videos out and about that will really help and support. And just I know there's some great fantastic Facebook support pages as well. Join those, and then people have great advice to be able to give you.
And is there anything you wish that people understood about sort of siblings with autistic children in terms of like maybe in school or sort of social situations or other parents?
It can be easy for the siblings to feel isolated or to feel that they're being treated differently. So you have to get the fine balancing act. But if you do get it right and include them as much as possible, then the bond will only get stronger between the siblings.
And how are things going now? What are you hopeful for in the future for all of your children?
I'm hoping that my son will learn not to wind his sister up so much. But that's just a boy thing, sibling rivalry and what have you. But yeah, no, things are going really well for us. Sophie has settled remarkably well into school life over here. Once she gets to school, that is. She's made a lovely group of friends. Friends are quite difficult for Sophie to make because she doesn't know how to kind of act around them. So she does a lot of copying, masking. But she's made a lovely group of friends. I never knew what she would do at school back in the UK, but now she comes home, she seems a lot happier. She slowly, as the evening goes on, starts to tell me about her school day and what they've been up to, which is fantastic. It's a massive step because we've never had that before, so she's just a lot happier. And I believe that when Bethany joins us and we're a complete family again, the strong bond, the sibling rivalry will be back to normal, and then life will just continue. But we're just so proud at like how the older two children have dealt with Sophie and the situation and the meltdowns. We're just really proud of the way. We're all three of them really proud of them. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Becca. That's been really insightful, and I hope the viewers enjoy it as well and they find it very helpful.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
So, yeah.
Thank you.